Welcome to the Jay Kim Show. This is your host, Jay Kim. I am an investor, author, and fitness entrepreneur, and for the first time in Asia, I sit down with the world's most brilliant minds in business, investing, and entrepreneurship. You'll learn all the secrets, strategies, and formulas to becoming a successful entrepreneur directly from the masters. If this is your first time listening, thank you for stopping by. This podcast is produced every week with the goal of providing actionable insight to you, the listener, with every single episode. And now, onto the show. Today's guest is Nathan Chan from Foundr magazine. Nathan's a very chill dude. He is based in Australia, and he has a very inspirational story like many of the guests on the show. He was working in a day job doing IT for a company, and he just absolutely hated the grind of the daily rat race. So during that time that he was working there, this was a couple years back, he was side hustling. He was just consuming content, learning, and building this business on the side, which became Foundr magazine. He even says at one point he was using his IT company's conference room to record his own podcast episodes. So he shares with us today his secrets on how he sort of landed big name interviews with Richard Branson, Seth Godin, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, and how he basically catapulted Foundr to becoming one of the top ranked business magazines in the world. I hope you enjoy the show. Nathan, welcome to the show. Really happy to have you here. This is probably Hong Kong's first entrepreneurial podcast. And look, man, you're inspirational to me. I mean, I've been following you for a while. I love your podcast, and I have to admit that I listened to your podcast, and I kind of have gotten a lot of ideas from you, and you do share a lot. So thank you for that. Can you just tell our audience here in Hong Kong a little bit about yourself and how you went sort of from being a full-time employee for someone else to now being a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, sure thing. Firstly, thank you so much for the kind words, Jay. It's awesome to hear that you're enjoying our work and follow what we do, and it's been a ton of fun so far. So, March 2013, I started a little magazine. It wasn't actually even called Foundr at the time. It was called something else, but I was actually sued for trademark infringement 4 months into starting it. So I had to rebrand and call it Foundr. So I started this digital magazine in the App Store, Google Play Store, and I started while I was working my day job just as a little side project because I didn't really know where it was going to go, to be honest, Jay. I never thought it'd be some big media startup. Didn't really have that bigger hopes and dreams for it. It was so much unknown. I didn't know anything about apps, publishing, design, you name it. I had no background in anything, but I was just extremely hungry. I came, from before I started it, I just came out of doing a master's in marketing and couldn't really find a job in marketing. And for some reason, I don't know why, after reading The 4 Hour Workweek and a few other books, I just had this drive and hunger to want to start my own little side hustle business. And yeah, I launched the magazine, and in the first day we launched it, we made $5.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. And as time went on, we started to make a little more money because I identified that there wasn't really a magazine in the space for young, aspiring, and novice stage entrepreneurs and startup founders. And as time went on, I was just like, a few months in, after I recovered from the lawsuit and stuff, I was like, wow, maybe I can turn this into a business. And I was just watching the subscription base just grow. And that's the beautiful thing about recurring revenue and a subscription-based business model. It's very scalable and it's very predictable. So, while I had my day job, I could just see, at first the goal was to build up the magazine so I could, replace operating costs and, run it at a profit. And then the next thing was running it at a profit to replace my income and still cover operating costs. And it took me about 12 months. And after 12 months, I actually got there. And all I focused on was the magazine. Had the worst website in the world, had no blog, had no podcast, had no social media presence, had nothing, no other assets, just this magazine. And that's what I focused on all day, every day. And it took about a year and a half before we actually even launched anything else.
Wow.
And then as time went on, now we're 3.5 years later. We have, as you mentioned, a podcast, a high traffic blog, social media, and many different courses and assets that we've created. A subscription membership site, and then the magazine, and working on all sorts of other products. So yeah, that's kind of us and where we are today.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to ask you, if you don't mind, can we take a step back? So you said you had done a master's in marketing and then you were working at a job, but you just had this hunger. So basically, the job you were working at was not fulfilling you, or was it just you are just that type of person that you're high achiever, overachiever, and you just wanted more? And was it like a push or a pull, like for you to keep just kind of pursuing this side hustle, until you found Foundr?
Yeah, look, I definitely wasn't an overachiever, and I definitely had never marked myself out to be an entrepreneur, to be honest, Jay.
Right.
Just kind of fell into it, and I was doing work. I was working in IT support at a travel company.
Hmm.
I loved the company. The company was and still is an amazing company with an awesome culture. It was actually a 20-year-old startup, and I'm still really good friends with the founder, and he's a mentor of mine.
Right.
That's a 300, no, maybe $400 million company.
Wow.
And he's taught me a lot, Daryl. But yeah, look, the work that I was doing just wasn't for me. And that's why, I went back to uni and was looking for other work.
Right. So I think I love this. I love the how did you become an entrepreneur, and I love hearing successful entrepreneurs talk about it. And you've definitely made something out of a side hustle. So two things. First of all, did you get any sort of pushback or support from your family? So like for me, I come from a background of finance. I was on Wall Street for a long, long time, and I still am an investor now. But when I was growing up, my parents, being Asian, they wanted me to be a doctor, right? And the thought of being an entrepreneur wouldn't even cross my mind. They'd probably disown me. They'd be like, "No, I didn't work this hard." My parents are first generation immigrants into the U.S., and they'd be like, "I didn't work this hard to put you to school for you to just go and try to chase a dream, right?" So, how was the support from you on the family side? Because I think this is something that for Asians more so, it's kind of it's a tough hurdle to get that backing from your parents. And then B, the second question was going to be, at what metric did you use when you were doing your side hustle? Were you ready to jump ship? Was it, and you mentioned the revenue part, but was there a specific metric that you used that you were like, okay, now I can go off on my own?
Yeah, for me, there was definitely a metric that I used to be able to go off on my own. To start the magazine, it cost about 3 grand US, and I spent that money, any money that I had on my credit card, kind of maxed it out to create that. And yeah, there was definitely a number of what I was looking to achieve with the magazine before I could leave my day job, and I had a certain amount of savings saved up. But before that, I was really terrible with money, Jay.
Mm.
I, just love to travel and just always spent money on traveling around the world. And yeah, definitely had no financial literacy where I was good with money. But for some reason, when I started the magazine, I become quite frugal and much better with money.
Right.
And in regards to support, at first, my parents weren't that supportive. They didn't really understand. And it was only kind of when, in about 6 to 8 months in, where they realized that I was actually working on a legit kind of company or project when we got Richard Branson, that
Yeah.
they started to become really supportive. And now they're like super, super supportive, man. Like, my parents are amazing. My mum comes up with killer ideas sometimes, man. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
She knows nothing about business, but sometimes she comes up with really killer ideas. She's got a good strategy, and I think that's one thing my parents have taught me is to become really resourceful. Because my parents, they never really had much money,
Hmm.
even when I was a kid. they're doing okay now. Like they've retired and they've paid off their mortgage and they live quite comfortably.
Right.
But no, the amount of revenue and all the sorts of things that we're doing, that's kind of really unbelievable to them. Yeah, they're really, really supportive right now. So no, all good on that front.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I'm so happy to hear that because it's funny when you said that when you finally got Richard Branson, then they were like, okay, you're legit now. That's pretty funny. That's probably something my parents would do as well.
Mm.
So listen, your website, your magazine, your podcast, I mean, you have so much sort of gold and free value that you give out there, and I love it, and I've consumed a lot of it. So thank you for that, first of all. And I mean, let's say you are you again back, and you're working and you're listening to this podcast, and you're like, look, I'm working in IT support, and I just don't really like this gig, and I want to do a side hustle and I just don't know where to start. I've been reading Foundr magazine, I've been reading Nathan's website and listening to his podcasts. Nathan, as you've talked to some of the most brightest minds, the greatest entrepreneurs in the world, what have you distilled from all those talks and all those interviews as sort of the first thing that someone should do if they want to begin their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, right? I think one of the reasons that a lot of people don't start is because they're afraid to fail and they care what other people think.
Hmm.
So I think the first thing that you need to do is just not give a shit. Like the moment that you don't give a shit
Yep.
is the moment that you actually start taking action. Because I was there, Jay. Like the magazine was, our first serious business that I launched. But I was playing around trying to do online marketing and all bits and pieces for years, man, before I actually launched anything.
Right.
And I think that's part of the problem is so much media, so much hype, so much wanting it to your first thing to be a success that you obsess around it, so much to the point of you want to make it perfect and then you just never launch.
Right.
And I think, that's the biggest thing, right? You don't know until you launch. So you have to just let go of whatever apprehension that you have and let go of whatever fears you have and let go of whatever, your family think or your friends think of you and just start small.
Right.
Don't even think this is going to be a startup. I'm going to go and try and get into Y Combinator
Right.
or anything like that. Just think to yourself, you know what? My goal with this venture is to make, $50 the first month.
Hmm.
And if I can do that, maybe I'm onto something. And just focus around that. Focus around whatever it is that you're launching, whether it's an e-commerce product, whether it's a SaaS, a piece of software. That's probably not the easiest thing to start with. Maybe an e-commerce product or some kind of service-based business or maybe a digital-based business. But whatever that is, just really, really focus on getting that first sale. Don't worry about, setting up a pretty website. Don't worry about, just worrying what other people think. Don't worry about if it might fail. Just try and create a business that is reasonably simple, that has a market, that's already proven. Don't try and reinvent the wheel too much. And yeah, just try and get that first sale. I think that's where you've got to start. And another way to keep yourself accountable is to financially back yourself. That's what I did with starting Foundr. I put $2,000 on my credit card to use the off-the-shelf publishing software to be able to launch the magazine and create the app.
Mm.
If you can make yourself financially accountable, whether it's, spending, a year's subscription on Shopify, which is, $300
Right.
or something along those lines, and just trying to make yourself accountable is really powerful. And then another thing you want to do is just do as much research and ship. Like, know your space enough that you have the confidence to ship that product or service. And once you have, find someone that's done what you want to do and show them what you've done and try and see if you can convince that person to help you every now and then. But serve first and ask later, of course. But
Yep.
I think that's really key, finding someone that's traveled down that road as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great advice. I mean, I think entrepreneurs, I think the fear that you get being an entrepreneur, I'm not sure if that ever leaves in some way, shape, or form. I think as every day you're sort of faced with different things that could fail in your businesses or in one of your businesses. But I think what you said is exactly right. You just have to get out there, get your minimum viable product or whatever it is, push it to market, and just get it out there. And we've all spent time, on GoDaddy trying to find the best domain name or tinkering around with that, website design. And, in a way, it's just stalling, really, right? And so if you just get it out there, I think you're absolutely right. And what you said about serving first, I think, a lot of people are blinded by sort of, they hear these quote unquote overnight success stories and they think that they can just, mimic it. But it doesn't really work like that. I think the sooner that you realize that, the better you are for it. Now, I know that you've seen extreme success in Instagram particularly. How did that all come about? And how did you manage to be so successful on Instagram?
Yeah, I think that's kind of on point, man. You just got to launch and see what happens and not really care what other people think. And the key thing is if you want it bad enough, you'll make it happen.
Hmm.
I find a lot of people, that's a common question. I want to start a business but don't know where to start. Can you help me?
Right.
And we always say, you go to this resource, go to foundermag.com/start now. It's like, a step-by-step guide of how to launch an online business. And we're actually working on a course to solve that problem. And I never thought that I'd get into courses, but it's it's going to become a really big part of our business soon.
Hmm.
And I envision now that we'll have hundreds of courses one day behind the Foundr brand.
Right.
But yeah, to answer your question around, Instagram and stuff like that, that was just a natural progression. When I left my day job, I was looking for some sort of scalable channel that I could use to grow the subscription base of the magazine. And Instagram was that channel that I just found from a series of tests.
Right.
I was testing blogging. I was testing paid, Facebook ads. I was testing Twitter. I was testing, just trying to drive traffic with Facebook by paying. And the thing that really stuck, that cost me no money and that little to no money to get started and just generate serious traction, was Instagram. I think any good marketing is throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. And Instagram stuck for us. So that was November 2014 that we started on Instagram. And so I left my job around August of 2014.
Right. Wow.
Started the magazine March 2013. So just over a year it took. And then from there, at the same time we launched the podcast, we were on Instagram, and the first day we were on this Instagram, man, we got serious traction, and I was just like, okay, wow, well, how can we scale this thing up? And that's kind of what we've done ever since, and up until this point, we've built some serious momentum for the business, not just because and a big part of it is definitely Instagram.
Yeah, and I see so many. I don't know who came first, but I see now that I've followed you, I see so many other people all of a sudden coming up with these similar inspirational quotes, and it's like a thing now, right? Like every sort of thought leader influencer kind of does that, which is awesome. So yeah, I mean, I think going back to sort of your podcast or magazines, you've spoken to so many amazing, just brilliant people. Which of those would you have to say, if you had to pick three top interviews, if you can even do that, of your favorite or most, inspirational or most educational, which episodes would they be?
Really depends, man, because
Tough question, I know.
like educational versus like personal favorites is a tough one for me because
Hmm.
I've been lucky enough to interview some of my heroes, right?
Right.
So, one would be, my favorite issue would be the Richard Branson issue
Right.
because, he's one of my heroes and we spent a lot of time on putting that together. But then another one would be the Seth Godin issue because, I'm a massive fan of his and we spent a lot of time putting that together. Same with Tim Ferriss.
Yeah. Amazing.
So, yeah, it just really depends, man. Like, you can only cover so much sometimes with certain people
Right.
and you can only hone in on certain things. Like, for example, we did a podcast interview with a guy called Ben Shahib, and he's someone that's just in the founder community, but he's an absolute sales weapon.
Mm.
And when he did that podcast, he just didn't hold back, dude. And it was insane, crazy. The things that he shared on his exact sales process and
Wow.
how he sells, products and services and how he teaches people how to sell. And oh my God, it was just amazing. And the feedback that we had from it was just really, really powerful. So yeah, look, I it really depends, man. But does that help answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that was a tough question to ask, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I look to you and your podcast because you've been so successful, and I have to admit that like, when I'm looking for guests to pitch and whatnot, I've definitely looked at who's been on your show and seeing who might be up for being on my show. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's guys that go really deep, tactical that I just love, like guys like Neil Patel who are just amazing marketers, and they actually will share like really deep dive secrets and tactics on how to improve SEO and content marketing, which I think is awesome. And at the same time, you have like, yeah, the inspirational hero category where it's like, I can't believe you're actually having a conversation with this guy. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that's amazing. So Nathan, I want to talk a little bit about you as an entrepreneur. Is there a habit, a ritual, some sort of thing that helps you get through the daily grind as an entrepreneur? Just a skill that some people can, our audience can work on, or a secret to your success on a daily basis?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a secret, but it's one thing that I think really helps me. And I think it's not something that everyone is born with, but if you can hone on this, it can be incredibly powerful. And that is like when I look at what I do with Founder, and I think you said, Jay, that I'm successful. Look, to be honest with you, man, yeah, look, we're doing okay, and we have had a reasonable amount of success with the brand, but I think we're only just getting warmed up. We're only just scratching the surface, and there's only the what you have seen is just only a small portion of what my vision is for the brand and what I'm trying to do.
Right.
And the reason that I dream so big, the reason that I've been able to take it to where it is in 3.5 years, which I think, if I knew what I knew now, I could have done it 100 times faster. It's just I didn't have the experience. This is an obsession for me, dude. Like, and the reason that it's an obsession is because I love what I do.
Right.
Like, this is what I was born to do. I have so much fun. I wake up every day and I'm super excited
Right.
just to work. And I'm surrounding myself with amazing people, not just other like minded entrepreneurs, but also the people in my team. They're incredibly talented and we have so much fun at work. And I'm building out this amazing weapon team. And I think that's my secret, dude. That the work that I do with Founder, I'm extremely passionate about it, so much to the point that it's a lot of it is all I think about, and it's an
Mm.
obsession. And I'm so dialed into this space and my surroundings, and what's happening in this space, and all the different pieces of the puzzle. And I'm constantly obsessing of how we can make things better and how we can provide more value and how we can grow the business essentially by providing more value. And that's how I get it done, dude.
Amazing.
And that's why I feel I'm just getting warmed up. And I think if you want to build a successful business, it has to be an obsession. And if it's not, you can't win.
Yeah. I think that's probably another struggle that a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs have is finding, I mean, passion is a weird word and it's kind of, some people use it in the wrong context. But I think at the end of the day, whether it's what leads you to finding what your obsession is or vice versa, sometimes you start off doing something that isn't an obsession and it becomes an obsession, because you get some traction and it starts to work and you start falling in love with what you're doing. So I think that's absolutely important. And, it's kind of like life's too short to be doing something you don't love. So thanks for that little piece of advice. Nathan, have you ever been up here to Hong Kong?
No, I haven't, Jay, but I would love to. I've been to Hong Kong many times in transit from flying in and out of places, but no, I would love to. I'd love to go to the races. I love the horse racing,
Dude,
so I'd love to go to is it the Hong Kong Cup?
Jockey Club, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, you gotta come up, man. It's a great. Since you love horse racing, it's a perfect place because everyone in Hong Kong loves horse racing and gambling. So,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, definitely come up here. We would love to have you. We got to look to wrap up here because I know that you have sort of back-to-back stuff going on. But if there's one final piece of advice that you can give to the audience, after all the work you've done, after you're spoken and interviewed so many successful people and just built your business to where it is now, what's the one piece of advice that you would leave for my audience?
I think it comes back to like what I was saying before. There's a lot of people that fantasize with the idea of starting a business or fantasize with, it would be nice if I could leave my day job and
Yeah.
have my own business and, live the dream and all that shit.
Hmm.
And I think it's a little bit of a myth because most people don't really want it bad enough. I think it's very, very rare to find people that are super, super hungry. They want it so extremely bad and they're willing, to do the work. They're willing to stay up at like till 3 a.m. and then get up at 7 a.m.
Right.
to go to their day job. And I would recommend and say to anyone and challenge anyone that, if you want to start a business, like how bad do you really want it? Because, if you just think it'll be a nice thing or you say that, you want to start a business or you say that you're working on something, but you've never even launched it, well, I challenge you to actually just get really hungry. And I don't know what it takes for that person to get really, really hungry, but you're not going to make it unless you are.
That's great advice. Yeah, I mean, it's especially with everything, the internet and social media and everything. It's very easy to fantasize and fall into that spiral of, I could be an entrepreneur too. But 90% of the people in the world should not be working for themselves and not be an entrepreneur. They should work for someone else. And it's just that it's literally that 1 or 2% that have that drive and will do whatever it takes. Like you said, stay up till 4 and get up at 7 or whatever it is to follow that obsession and chase the dream. So thanks for that, Nathan. Thank you so much for your time. What's the best place that people can find you?
You're welcome, Jay. Best place people can find me, just foundrmag, FOUNDRMAG.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter at Nathan H. Chan.
Okay, great. And can you quickly talk about Foundr Club? Because I know that listening to your podcast, I know you've been talking about that a little bit. What exactly is Foundr Club?
Yeah, so pretty much, long story short, Jay, we found that a lot of people, I love's going on. There's people that love the brand that follow us on social, on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. People that love the brand that just read the blog. People that love the brand that just read the podcast. People that love the brand that just read the magazine. And we seem to attract like the coolest, amazing people. And they were reaching out to us and we'd only know them. And I felt that there needed to be a way to connect that community. And that's what we did. We've connected that community by creating this amazing club, and people can access the magazine and training and give people access to some of the people that we interview and do monthly mentor calls. And pretty much if you're wanting to become a successful entrepreneur and you need a network of people to learn from and hang out with, then that's what we created Founders Club for.
That's awesome. That's exactly what a lot of people need. And where can they find that?
Oh, if you go to Foundr Club, FOUNDR club.com, you can sign up there.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Foundrclub.com. Great. Thank you so much, Nathan. I really enjoyed speaking with you today. I really appreciate the time. And thanks for all the advice and all the free content that you keep giving out to everyone that visits your site. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for your time, brother. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Take care now. Bye.
You too. All right, ciao.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. All the show notes and links can be found over at jkimshow.com. Come back often and make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Don't forget to join us next week for another exciting episode of The J. Kim Show. I'd love to hear your comments. You can find me on Twitter at jkimmer, Kimmer. See you guys next week.